Hello there, my name is Ian, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, I thought I'd like to take a look at the newest Steely Dan SACD available from Acoustic Sounds and the Analogue Productions label. This is the Royal Scam, and this completes the full Steely Dan discography on the label as well as Super Audio CD. This is actually the first release from the series that I've picked up, although I do love Steely Dan. I've been listening to them for, close to 10 years now. And even though at first my prog rock fan tendencies were to look down on Steely Dan, it wasn't very long that I realized just how brilliant they are. And I've come to really cherish their unique brand of sophisticated jazz pop with sardonic downbeat lyrics full of all of these shady characters and dealings and wonderful picturesque stories. You know, there's something to Donald Fagen's lyrics that maybe remind me of Ian Anderson's lyrics of Jethro Tull or Ray Davies of the Kinks, because it seems like he paints a picture with his words. And they're not really songs as much as they are scenes and little moments that are captured. I love all the double entendre that he uses, and the funny little ways that he'll phrase things, and Donald Fagen's delivery of the lines is very snarky. This is a great album, and it's actually my favorite Steely Dan album. It was the first one I ever heard from them, and it contains a number of songs that I love, and we can talk a little bit about that. So I love Kid Charlemagne. You've got that evil-sounding Fender Rhodes or clavinet or whatever that is that he's using there at the beginning that sets the mood perfectly for what you're about to hear. The Caves of Altamira with that hard rock and horn section kicking underneath. It's so heavy, and again, it's just an atmosphere that I love. I also love the Fez. It's just a funky little number. Great drumming. Bernard Purdie, I think, is the drummer on most of these tracks. I'm very much familiar with his work from the Asia album as well, and I love it here. Green Earrings is a track that I just can't get out of my head. I'm probably a little out of my mind for saying this, but when I close my eyes, I almost imagine this is a prototype for the Talking Heads sound. It's very funky and full of kind of attitude, but it just sort of sits there in one mood, and it's all about the feel of the song. Haitian Divorce, a reggae track with some just nasty talk box work on it. That's again, it's that Pink Floyd thing, like Pig's three different ones, but here it's like almost at odds with the brightness of the song. I mean, and lyrically, it's not quite as bright. It's very dark. It's about the falling out of a relationship, of course, but you know, there's something about that juxtaposition between kind of the cool music and the bluesy talk box solo that happens in that track. But it's the Royal Scam, I think, that is my favorite. And again, that's a perfect example of Donald Fagen's lyrics setting a scene and kind of capturing a moment in time. Of course, you can't have a conversation about Steely Dan without talking about Walter Becker's wonderful work. And there's some great guitar playing on here. Larry Carlton, too. That lead work in Don't Take Me Alive is very bluesy, borderline fusion at times. It's very impressive and not at all the kind of thing that you would hear on a normal pop record, I feel. But so that's my feelings on the album. Again, it's my favorite Steely Dan album. I also really like Countdown to Ecstasy. I like Katie Lied. I love Asia. And many of you've probably seen my review of Donald Fagen's The Nightfly album. That's another favorite of mine. The always reliable Bernie Grundman returns to master this album, and I think he's done all of the albums in the series. Maybe there's one or two done by Chris Bellman, but like I said, I don't have them, so I can't confirm that. But what I noticed right away is that, and I have to say that this isn't an album that I'm extremely familiar with, other than I've listened to it a lot while I'm driving, and I've often put it on like when I'm doing things around the house. But this is the first time I've really sat down and absorbed it and like listened to the details of what's going on here. And what I noticed right away is that the 1999 version, which I have here, this was the version that I know the best. I never heard it on vinyl or anything, so I can't comment on that. But what I noticed was that the 1999 version is very much compressed, at least in comparison. But the thing is about Steely Dan is that they are, of course, on the Mount Rushmore of great production. All of their albums sound great, and it's what you expect. So even when their albums are presented compressed or, even brickwalled, which I'm not necessarily saying that this is brickwalled, but even when they are presented in unflattering ways, they still sound great. And that's, of course, a tribute to Fagen and Becker's work and the way these albums were recorded, produced, and mixed. But that being said, this SACD version from Analogue Productions absolutely blows it out of the water. And even though I did have to turn it up quite a bit more to get the bass response that I was getting out of the 1999 version, what you trade for that is greater instrumental clarity. I can hear so much going on in the higher end of the drums and the cymbals. And my friend Jocko, who you may know from some of my live streams, pointed out to me that all of the 1999 Steely Dan remasters are subject to noise reduction issues, which is where you select a sample of noise and then you uniformly remove it from the frequencies across the entire album. And it's not something I really picked up on because I hadn't heard any other version, but I did notice that when I cranked this version up, there's just a little bit of tape hiss, but personally I don't mind it, and I don't quite understand why harmful noise reduction would have been used in the first place. Because if these are indeed taken from the same master tapes, I didn't find it invasive. In fact, I had to really listen for it. So unless they were trying to apply like some really heavy compression, which would definitely bring that right up to the front, I don't really understand why noise reduction would have been used on the 1999 version. But here, you can hear so much clarity again, especially in the higher end, and the drums are very crisp. The cymbals feel very real and lifelike. I noticed things like the horns are very present throughout the entire mix. Different guitars sound very rich and natural. I feel like I was able to hear and understand Donald Fagen's words more than I'm used to. And that was great. And again, like all the keyboard tones felt very natural to that era and vintage and organic sounding. And there is the feeling when you listen to this SACD that you're listening to a tape. Like it to me, to my ears, it sounds like I'm listening to an old tape, and a very pristine tape at that. So if you're one of those people who's identifies as an audiophile or is just interested in the best reproduced sound from a master tape, I really think you can't go wrong here. And I'm excited now because I went back and bought a couple of the other SACD releases, a couple of other favorites. I bought Countdown to Ecstasy, and I bought Katie Lied, and I also bought Pretzel Logic. So really excited to check those out. Again, if you are watching this and you're wondering, do I have an SACD player? If you have a DVD player, chances are you do. If you have a Blu-ray player, you most likely do, because I'm actually using a Blu-ray player to play my SACDs. But even if you don't have a SACD player, have a Blu-ray player, or have a DVD player that supports SACD, you can still play the CD layer of these SACD discs. There's 2 layers. So if you play it in a conventional CD or like in your car player, if you're lucky enough to have a car CD player, it will play the Red Book layer. That being said, it's really the mastering that you're after. And Bernie Grundman is a legend for a reason, and he did an absolutely stellar job here. So I recommend this, especially if you're a fan of this music. If you love this album as I do, definitely go check it out. Because it's worth it. It's worth your money. It's worth your time. And you're going to get lots of listens out of it, as I have. If you enjoyed this video, please do like it, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel. I do plan to talk about the newly released Genesis SACDs from Analogue Productions, and those are Abacab and A Trick of the Tail. They shipped just yesterday or the day before, and I'm being told they're going to be here Saturday. So hopefully within the next week or so, I'll be reviewing those. And if you want to see that, subscribe to the channel and you won't miss it. But until then, once again, my name's Ian, and you'll be hearing from me real soon. Alrighty, bye-bye.